Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacey and Phil Thompson.
Welcome to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacey.
And I'm Phil Thompson. Good to be with you. We're a tech company that helps churches and ministries in lots of different ways, not just always tech.
Right. We serve in leadership. I mean, this podcast kind of sets up all the different areas that we serve the ministries in.
Yeah, it really does. And we do lots of things.
We do serve in the tech arena as well.
We do. And that's a big part of what we do. And today what we're going to talk about is it's the tech arena, wouldn't you say? Would you say emails?
So yeah. we're talking the 10 reasons you should use email. 10
reasons why you should really use email for your church. And what we're getting at here is, there's lots of times people will snail mail newsletters out, which is okay. It's okay, but or just primarily rely on their bulletin Sunday morning or their program.
Right. And we're talking about using email as a communication device, not,
right.
I'm sure everyone's using email to communicate within the staff members and that sort of thing.
Right.
But this is to communicate to the congregation.
To the congregation, exactly. And there's lots of pros and there's things we can do. So hopefully stuff we share here will maybe give you some ideas. Maybe you can enhance your newsletter using email. That's the idea behind this. So let's just jump into it.
So we have the top 10 reasons. Number one reason is that you should email the newsletter to inform all the members, not just those that were there this past Sunday that may have picked up a bulletin. Yeah, absolutely. In other words, you should have a database of everybody that's attended your church if they've given you their email, and you can certainly get that pretty easily if you have some kind of a response card or some kind of a connection card. Right.
You don't have to ask for a lot, but and the way we do it at my church, and I'm sure lots of churches do it this way, is look, if you will fill out a connection card, maybe you give them a first-time gift or a second-time gift, but if people will give you their email address, which people are they're more likely to give you their email than they are their physical address or their phone number.
Or their cell phone number.
Exactly.
That's something I guard very dearly.
Yeah, you do. And every once in a while I give it out to people. And then they call you and then you're upset. But, the nice thing about it, they'll give you an email because they can always, especially if you have a good newsletter program, which we'll get into in a moment here, they can always unsubscribe to it.
Right. Email's, benign and most of a lot of people are using, Gmail-based things, and so the spam filtering is really good. So you don't have to worry as much anymore.
Yeah.
Going with this first point, for most churches, I would think that their email list is double, maybe triple their weekend attendance.
Same here, yeah.
So you would have a much broader audience that you'd be sending out as opposed to trying to communicate something in a...
Yeah, my church is about 3 times what we
and that's
have.
Probably not unusual.
Yeah, and people do unsubscribe occasionally, and that's good. So that's the nice thing about it, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So emailing your newsletter really allows you to communicate to everybody at once. All right, so number 2 here.
Number 2, email is the commonly accepted way for organizations to communicate.
It's very common. It's very much acceptable. We receive emails from companies all the time. Our company does. And, it could be all sorts of things. You get emails from your race car shops, I'm sure. I get emails from my Jeep people. Again, it's a church newsletter. It's an easy way when people get your church newsletter. It's easy to scan if you do it right for important information, and you can get what you need and move on.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone probably gets a lot more email than they wish they would, but it's easy to recognize what's coming from where.
Right.
And so for me, our church emails the newsletter, and there's some other things. There's things that I'll go through, and it shows up in my promotions tab within Gmail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll typically go through and select all, and then identify which ones I want to read and delete everything else.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
You turned me on to Gmail about I think it was probably 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, my oldest son was he was an early one with Gmail, but and they have emerged as the king.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So and one of these days we'll do a podcast on how to do. I don't know if we've ever done this. Maybe we have, but how to do a good newsletter. Very effective newsletter using email. So we'll move on to that. But let's go to number 3 here.
So, email newsletters allow for comprehensive information.
Yeah.
Now there's a couple of pieces in this. So the notes we're leveraging off talks about, well, you can put a lot of stuff in a newsletter to reach a bunch of different people. The other thing that I would suggest is that you manage your lists into different groups, and then you can also send your particular newsletter to that targeted group. So you're not
that's true.
sending the men's ministry stuff to all the women, or all the youth events to all the seniors, or whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely an option. And again, my thinking is, if you do your newsletter right, people can easily scan it, and they can skip over the men's ministry if they're not interested in it, or the women's ministry, or the Jeep ministry, or the race car ministry, or they can skip over that stuff if you do your newsletter right, and still get a good idea of what's happening. So,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So, and number 4, which is really probably should have been number 1,
yes, is
that email newsletters are much cheaper than a print.
They are.
They're a lot more effective as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right. It probably should put this at the top. But I mean, printing is expensive. I mean,
and mailing is expensive.
Yes, it is. And with digital newsletters, again, you can there's providers that offer free, which we'll get into here at the very end. Some free email stuff you can use, some tools you can use, and if you have a really, really large list, you still can get by paying pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, as opposed to
printed material still is expensive, and there's a time and a place for printed material, but not what we're talking about here.
Assembling and putting together, creating the newsletter is much easier online too, as well.
Oh yeah,
it
really
creating
is.
Something set up that's going to be printed and folded and
Definitely so. So, all right. So we've talked about how emailing newsletters, you can inform all the church members, not just the people who showed up once in a while, but and also it's a common way to communicate. Everybody accepts it. It allows for comprehensive information. It also, as we just mentioned, it's definitely much more cost effective than print. And number 5,
email allows immediate action.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most important reasons to email your newsletter, from your church, because with one click, members or even guests, they can take action on something.
Yeah, they can
sign up
for the potluck or
class,
whatever it may be.
Volunteering, register for an event. Maybe even you have a special offering, you want giving for some specific thing. They can do that. And again, with the tools that these newsletter providers give you, you can set all that up digitally. It's not that hard to do. And they can click on a link on your newsletter, and they're moving right along. And it really helps. All right.
Number 6 on our list.
This is your favorite.
Analytics track what gets attention, so you have detailed records of what happened to your newsletter. Analytics. That's right. And this is kind of related to the previous point, and that is, as a sender of the email, you can see, what is of interest to people, who read it, and you can get a good idea who opened it up. If you have certain links in there, things that were clicked on. It will hone your skills in creating creative subject lines.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing too. And we can again probably talk about that later, but. So definitely analytics is really a good idea. It really helps you. We're really in analytics around here. Well, at least you are.
Yes.
I am too, to some degree. All right, let's move on here.
Number 7, increased awareness of online giving increases in stewardship. So you have the ability to kind of take action. You can also donate online right from the newsletter.
Yeah, it's a good reminder for people. And, as we've talked about on other podcasts that we've done here, I mean, digital giving, online giving it's really the way to go. If you're not making that, if you're not providing that opportunity for people on your website, if you're doing streaming video, a place on your platform for streaming video for people to give while they're watching or even while they're listening, you're missing the boat here, because people, this generation coming up and others to come, it's all about online giving. It really makes a difference. And I understand there's still people in your church that, bring their checkbook and give cash, and we have that in our church too. But every time I send a newsletter from my church, there's almost always several people within that day will give online. And we have a link in our newsletter, and so it's a reminder to them to give. And that's how they give. That's how they regularly support the church, by giving online.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you can certainly do that, and it makes a big difference for special needs as well as regular thing.
So number 8 on our top 10 reasons to use email as a communication vehicle is you can include devotionals and personal discipleship.
That's very possible to do. You can have devotionals on there. You can set it up. And again, I'm probably getting back into this thing, but let's talk about it. So we have a little bit of time to go. If you're setting up a newsletter on your, that's set up with something like MailChimp, which we'll mention, or what's the other one out there? There's MailChimp, which is what we all use. We use it here. And what's the other provider? But there's other providers out there. You can set up a devotional and just have a link on your newsletter. So we're not talking about putting a whole page, of devotional information on there, which, you can have them linked to a specific page on your website or somewhere else. They could maybe download a file if you have that ability to host it. And so you're talking about just a short little blurb saying, click on today's devotional or this week's devotional or this week's prayer of the week. And you can have that on there and people can click on it. And those who don't want to do it for some reason, they can just bypass it and move on to the next blurb about something.
Right. All right, we're moving on, right?
It's one of our quickest podcasts yet.
This is going to be awesome.
We're going to drag this out longer.
No, we're not going to do that.
All right.
We're not. Number 9.
Email can promote archives. So, again, I would hope that your church has some type of archives from your messages.
Yeah, so what do we mean by archives?
So we're talking the sermon, either in an audio file like an MP3 file, or, of course, we provide streaming video as well. So, if you stream your services live, you could have an MP4 file. And, if you use our company, like, shameless plug here for streamingchurch.tv, but if you used our company, we could host your archives, and then you could provide the link to your media vault.
Right. And I'm not sure if it's still true today, but I think your archives on your church website is number 1 and number 2 most visited place when people are checking out your church. Yeah. Because they want to get a feel for what it's about. Yeah. And so no, better way than to immerse themselves into one of your past services.
Absolutely. And again, people, and this kind of ties into the last point here, but people are not always going to be at every single service that you have. And if you have that recorded in some capacity and you give them access to that file through your newsletter, video or audio or either one, it keeps them connected. Right. And it keeps them going with what,
Along those lines, did we talk about this in a prior podcast? But a regular attender is considered someone that attends, it's 3 out of 9, was it?
I think once a month or something like that.
It is less than once a month.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so
that's what it is today. Yeah.
Or no, it was maybe 1.5 times a month, something like that.
Though. Yeah, that number, yeah.
Yeah. For some reason I thought it was 3 and 9. So, and that's considered a regular attender.
Right.
So even the regular attenders are missing 6 out of 9 messages. So
yeah, that's just the way it is today. And I know there's pastors or key volunteers or leaders listening who's going, well, they should be coming every week. Well, do your best to get them there. That would be great. Have them come every week or as much as possible. But the reality is, they're not always going to be there. And so when you give them opportunity to connect another way, maybe they're not there in person, but at least they can get the message, either through the audio or through the video. Again, you're doing a service to help them.
Another just benefit of this is not on our list, is a freebie, is, and I may have mentioned it earlier, is it's just much easier because you can do a weekly newsletter every week for the effort it would take to put together one monthly newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
And get it printed and mailed and distributed and all that sort of thing. So it allows you to up the frequency so you can have something going out every week.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so number 10 on our list.
Number 10, we're almost done here. So this really ties into really what number 9 was about promoting your archives, but you can promote your live streaming. So if you've got live streaming, particularly video, again, as you just mentioned, not everybody's going to show up all the time. It gives people an opportunity to watch the service live. And here's another great benefit, which we've talked about, the benefit of streaming video, and that is, they can always share that with somebody else too.
Yeah,
so somebody's maybe never come to the church, but you're kind of encouraging them to come. They can share either the link from the live stream that you put in the newsletter, or maybe even share the newsletter and say, hey, there's lots of things going on at my church. I think you guys would like it. Here's the newsletter. Here's a link to the live streaming on the newsletter. Again, it's a great opportunity to help people connect. Mm-hmm. And I think one of our pastors that we have with us, Spencer Ellis said, look, there's going to be people that don't come, but if you're really doing well with your services, people are going to eventually want to show up because it should be a good experience, exciting, fun, something that they get out of not just the relationships, but the whole experience. Again, it's a great opportunity to invite people to come and be a part of that.
Right, and there's lots to say about that. It's just easy, and so a lot of times people may not be in the position to actually show up, but they can attend online. So
absolutely. So your newsletter.
If you don't, provide that avenue, then they just don't show up, and they get disconnected.
Yeah. So we would recommend. There's a company out there called MailChimp. And MailChimp is what we use a lot. They got good analytics. It's an easy platform to use. You can do all sorts of these things that we've just been talking about, of putting links in, putting cool images on your newsletter, formatting it.
Yes, and we all, shameless plug, have an email newsletter tool within our MyFlock system.
We do have
integrates with MailChimp.
Yeah, myflock.com, which is one of our products, church management, email as well. That's good. But again, there's other ones out there. MailChimp.
Yeah, there's other. I can't think of any of the competitors to MailChimp.
I'm going to say SurveyMonkey, but that's just surveys. There's what was the one that everybody was getting on years ago that was almost kind of multi-level, which the tool was pretty good, but I wasn't excited about how they were marketing it.
It was a newsletter tool?
Yeah, it was a newsletter tool. Lots of people were using it, and you could you could resell it. But it's still out there. I just can't think of what it is.
All right.
But there's stuff out there. But again, and as I said earlier in this podcast, if you can get people's email and you can send them the newsletter, you should always put a place where give them an opportunity to unsubscribe. And if you give them that opportunity, they'll feel better about getting it, and you'll get people that unsubscribe once in a while. But a company like MailChimp gives you that easy link that you can put in there, and it's just a polite way of when you send people things, and it happens. So honestly, I strongly consider using email, especially with your newsletters, to promote what your ministry, what your church is doing, and I think you'll find people will better connect with what you're doing and be better informed, and good things will happen.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Good deal. All right. So we are done. We'd love to get your feedback on this. Please let us know what your thoughts are on this. If you want to add something to this or take away from it or not crazy about it, we'd love to hear from you. Either way, we're always open to things. Here's the email, support@streamingchurch.tv. Send us an email. Check us out online. You can chat with us. And we are done. We've got some guests lined up in the next couple of weeks or so, which should be exciting. So we'll let people go then, I guess, right? All right. So the guy across the table, his name is Steve Lacey, and I'm Phil Thompson. We hope that you have a great day. Thanks for listening to the Church Solutions Podcast. We'll catch you again next time.